So I was born on Long Island. I'm the oldest of 4 kids, and I think because of some kind of weird Catholic tradition, I was raised to be a mama's boy. Okay? And by the time I was 10, I realized I had just one job in life, and that was to become the man my mom wished she married. And that man was JFK. So guess what, guys? I'm the only kid at my public elementary school who wears a blazer every single day. All right, most weeks, Mondays, Mom gives me this big hug and she presses me into her bosom. And she's like, someday, you are going to be president of the United States. And I like the sound of that. But I noticed that she has kind of lower expectations for my siblings. I mean, when they get pushed into her boobs, this is what they get. I just want you to be happy, healthy, and normal. Right? And she kind of winks at me like, you know, these poor bastards. And I know what she means. And I think they do too, because for some reason they kind of gravitate towards my father. And he's kind of more working class, you know, he's like a truck driver, a mechanic, he does some carpentry. And he gives them all nicknames. My brother Chris is Monkey, my older sister Steph is Pretty, and the younger one, Leslie, is Bunny. But I don't get no nickname. And, you know, this kind of bothers me, because maybe Dad loves me just a little bit less, or a little different, and it feels weird. And then I think, well, no, because Derek means leader of people, and that's kind of like a built-in nickname. I'm not Native American, but, you know, it works for me. And maybe he doesn't want to interfere with Mom's presidential aspirations. So he just calls me Derek. And, you know, Dad's the kind of guy who, like, lifts his kids up over the turnstiles of the subway, because he doesn't want to pay for them. You know, he smokes, he drinks, he plays poker, he reads Playboy. He's not exactly presidential material. And I think that's the reason why Mom interviews every single one of my prospective friends and their families. I don't want you hanging out with losers like your dad. And I can't tell if she means that Dad's friends are losers, or if Dad's a loser. And I think that's why, if I'm given the choice between, like, fixing engines with my dad, and getting my hands all dirty, by the way, which is kind of gross, or doing women's work with Mom, I mean, you can bet your ass I'm, like, stringing popcorn, making pot holders, and sticking cloves into oranges. Because I know that makes Mom happy. But I don't know what makes Dad happy. I mean, I tell him once, I want to play in the NFL. And he gets all, like, realistic on me. And he's like, you know, only 1% of college players make it to the pros. And I'm thinking, Dad, there are like 1,500 players in the NFL. And by the way, only one president of the United States. You know, like, why does Mom believe in me so much more than Dad does? Anyway, by the time I'm 14, Chris gets a new nickname, Meef, M-E-E-F. And I'm like, Dad, what the hell? He's like, oh, you know, he's a Meef. Which makes no sense at all. But I see how happy it makes Chris to hear this name, and I see that Dad and Chris got this thing going on that Dad and I don't have. And I'm kind of jealous. And so it's like, to compensate, I start really looking up to my older cousin on my mom's side, David. And, you know, he's a college freshman pre-med. His girlfriend looks like Jackie O. I mean, duh. This is my JFK role model. And I'm so psyched when Mom says that I, and I alone among our family members, are going to spend a vacation with his family on the North Shore of Fire Island. And I figure, finally, I'm going to see how I measure up. So the night I get there, the first night, he's like, we're going clamming. And I don't know if you know about clamming, but usually you do it with this rake with a basket on the end, and you dredge the seafloor. It's not very sporting, but neither is the patriarchy, and at this time in my life, I question neither. David tells me that we're gonna do a little chubby checker twist style dredge. And he gives me a little demo, and then we walk into the water up to our chests. And almost like right away, he starts in, he's picking up clams left and right, but 5 and 10 minutes go by, and I got zippy. And he's like, what's the matter, Clem? You can't get any clams? Nyuk, nyuk, nyuk. And so, I'm shocked and freeze, because what the hell is a clem? And if I hadn't been so far behind in the clam count, I would have retorted, believe me, but there were clams to be had. So I shift spaces, and I get enveloped in this pool of warm water, and I'm like, did you? And he's like, yeah, dude, I peed on you. So I go back at it, and after about 20 minutes, he's still popping him in there, and I feel something under my foot. So I bob through the pissy water, and I grab this thing, but it's a rock. And 30 minutes go by, still nothing. Dave's trying to hand me clams underneath the surface of the water, but I drop them, they're lost forever. And by the time we're enjoying clam sauce over linguine, I'm Clem. And he's like, hey Clem, can you go throw me a roll? Probably not. And it's the first time I had in my whole life that I have a nickname, and I hate it. So I tell my dad about this when he picks me up, and he's like, well, good thing they didn't call you Clam. I'm like, But I need information, so I cool it, and I'm like, Dad, what's a clam? And he pauses for a moment, because back in these days, Dad's the internet, and he's like, well, I think it's you. And from then on, he's like, hey, Clem, can you take out the trash? Happy birthday, Clem. And I'm like, really, on my birthday? I try to get Mom to do a cease and desist thing. But there it is, my high school graduation card. Hey, Clem, congrats on being valedictorian. And he calls me this, throughout college and into my 20s. And I feel like it's this belittling thing, right? This callback to my failure at Fire Island, and frankly, every mistake I've made my entire life. I quit my journalism program, I'm floating through my 20s, drinking and just taking job after job after job. And finally, when I'm 27 years old, I get fired. Not laid off, not downsized, I am fired for poor performance. And I just feel like, this isn't the kind of thing that happens to the leaders of people. So I call home and Dad picks up the phone. And he's like, come home and lick your wounds. Which to me sounds like the most insensitive dad thing in the world. But I go home, because I got nowhere else better to go. And Mom kind of avoids me. It's weird, because, she has to acknowledge her son's not on the presidential track. And one night I'm walking to the fridge, and Dad stops me. And he says, Clem, what's next? Dad, why do you call me Clem? And he looks kind of puzzled, and he puts his hand on my shoulder, he looks me right in the eye. And he says, because you're my Clem. And I start to cry. I feel like a big baby, but I do it anyway. And he puts his arms around me, and it's not this awkward hug after the Jets score a touchdown, this is, a real hug. And I say, Dad, I don't know what I want to be. And I try to step away, but he holds me. And he pushes me back just a little bit, and he looks at me again. And he says, son, be yourself. And so he grabs a beer, and we sit down to watch the ball game. And I feel this slight burden lifted from my shoulders. And as I look at him, eating his peanuts and watching the TV, I think for the first time in my life that maybe I'm a daddy's boy after all. Thank you.